there was something of a spectacle, a political spectacle yesterday, talking about the national headquarters of the PDP yesterday, and so let's talk about that. Of course, generally speaking, we know that, well, PDP more or less like two factions now. On the one hand, there's the, how does one put it? There's the newly elected PDP chairman, Tanimu Turaki, that's on one side, and then there's Mohammed Abdurrahman, who is the chairman for what one can call the Wike faction of the PDP. But any way you look at it, let me introduce my guest, Mr. Ini Emenobong. He's the publicity secretary of the NPN. Thank you very much for joining us. You've been very busy in the last couple of days. You're on all the media.
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
It comes with the job.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and I'm delighted to have you. You're a thorough professional. You're a legal practitioner. You know all the issues. So what happened yesterday? Lawlessness seemed to reign yesterday.
Okay, let me backtrack you a bit to your first comment, your introductory comment about factions. I'm not sure you've seen the letter that the people you mentioned on the other side wrote to INEC on November 6th, and INEC's reply to them. That settles that. So PDP has no faction, but we must admit that we have a few members who do not agree with what we are doing. It doesn't make them a faction. So I needed to be clear on that.
Okay, indeed, I hear you. It's just that which section is the real PDP now?
So that's what I'm saying. I said that if INEC, which is the supervisory body for all political parties, has written back to them to say, look, we don't recognize what you're doing. But let me even give you a basis for that. So the constitution we operate makes the chairman of the party in this, take it 2-3 months back, Damagun, the chief executive, and makes the then secretary, Senator Samuel Anyanwu, a person who is executed in consultation with the chairman. So they went to court, Anyanwu and colleagues, instigated a court action, and the court gave a judgment. And the party constitution says that we must explore internal party resolution means, arbitrative means, before the court must be the last option. And so the party found them guilty of those provisions and suspended them and referred them to a disciplinary committee, which they didn't attend to. Now, so out of 18 members, 14 signed the suspension notice against the secretary and other people who were suspended there. And later on that day, the people now claim to also have, the people who were already suspended now claim to have suspended the other people. So the simple question would be, the constitution says that the chairman shall direct the secretary to summon a meeting. That same constitution gives the chairman power to allocate any role to any officer. And the constitution, in making the deputy national secretary of the PDP a member of the National Working Committee, says that he shall act in the absence of the secretary or when he is directed to do so. So let's look at let's leave the legality, let's look at the logical sequence of things. That a chairman asks a secretary to convene meeting, he doesn't. He now asks his deputy, under his inherent power made available by the Constitution, to convene the meeting. And 14 out of 18 people attend the meeting and have a resolution suspending their colleagues. And so the other 4 people get around and say, we've suspended. So now the question is, who was the chairman who gave the directive to the secretary to convene the meeting? So you see the hollowness. It's an attempt to put a foundation on moving water. And as long as we still have those water moving, your foundation cannot stand. So that's why I needed to take you back there to the origin. That one meeting had legal basis. The other had none. One meeting had 14 people signing that document. The other had not. So proceeding from there. Okay, let me again take you some steps back from there. both of them, Damaguna and Anyanwu, issued valid notice to INEC, which INEC has not denied. In fact, they have even exhibited in documents they filed in court. So they gave INEC notice to monitor a convention. Together, they sat under this constitution. The constitution gives every executive committee, every national executive committee, national working committee, the powers to create committees and empower them to do the things that they want done. Both of them sat, agreed, signed a national convention organizing committee headed by Governor Fintri and populated with people. Incidentally, I was a member of the main committee and the publicity subcommittee of that committee. And there was no question about the validity at that time. There was no question about whether we were going for convention. Subcommittees were now inaugurated. And incidentally, even the subcommittee that the senator was, he wrote to his chairman requesting for funds to undertake the convention. So at what point, if there was any time where there was a backtracking, oh, non est factum, not my fault and all of that, not my act, then that becomes a statement of fact, which he needs to play. So at no point was the notice contested. At no point were the proceedings, the procedures towards the convention contested. In fact, the argument that the duties of the National Working Committee had now been vested in the NCOC is faulty because the National Working Committee in NEC ascribed the terms of reference to that committee. So they donated their powers, and they are the owners of power. So under delegated authority, they are the owners of power, and they can delegate power. So they did that. And the National Convention Organizing Committee, headed by Governor Fintri, did an excellent work up to the convention. So at the point where a court case was instituted and the judgment was gotten, Judgment 1 was gotten. The party said, well, we have seen, we are studying, we'll go on appeal. A notice of appeal, a stay of execution were filed, and the full processes now, the Court of Appeal is completely seized of that matter. Another person approached a different high court Federal High Court in Abuja, and also obtained judgment. A notice of appeal, stay of execution have both been filed, and filing is ongoing at the Court of Appeal. Another person who feels dissatisfied also went to a court in Ibadan and also got an order. And the orders of courts cannot be made in vacuum. So where that left the party was to go ahead with the convention, because in a plethora of judgments, you understand, one seeking to kill and another seeking to keep alive. It is the disposition of the law that you follow what seeks to keep alive. So that is how we got to the convention. Now, I've heard people talk about the quorum of convention. The quorum of convention is 2/3. And so you had only 3 to 4 states who were not in attendance. You saw that even Taraba arrived very late after voting had been concluded and counting was ongoing, and they were unable to vote. So when you look at the accreditation, you see that more than 2/3 was met. So the proceeds of that convention has a history that can be traced back to when there was no crisis.
Wow. You know, it all is, quite frankly, a bit convoluted for people watching it. People are just seeing that, first of all, people want to go by the Constitution. Well, two constitutions. First of all, there's the national Constitution. Then there's also the Constitution of your party. Are you saying that everything, that the way both, there's only one party, but both segments of the party have been conducting themselves, is it an agreement with the Constitution of the party?
Yes, everything I said here is contained in the Constitution of the party. And you do know that the internal affairs of a party is out of the jurisdiction of courts. However, if the rights of people, if the rights of people are affected, the court will have to inquire. And more importantly, the court would have to be sure that you adhere to your Constitution. And all I have said are in the Constitution.
In the
so, for example,
yes.
In the party's Constitution, that the chairman will be the chief executive officer, that he will direct the secretary to convene, that he has the capacity to allocate responsibilities, meaning that even as I am as publicity secretary, the chairman can direct the deputy national secretary, can direct the deputy secretary, the secretary, and say, go and do the work that is meant for the publicity secretary. That is what we bound ourselves to. And the day I'm not comfortable with it, I resign and I leave. Because I was sworn to uphold this constitution and the constitution of the Federal Republic. So a constitution is made for foreseeable circumstances, number one. It's also made to cater for things that may have happened in history. If you check, no other deputy is a member of the National Working Committee except the Deputy National Secretary. Something gave rise to that. And the Constitution now says that the Deputy National Secretary shall act in the absence, unavailability of the National Secretary, or if directed to do so by the National Chairman. So it means that whatever the Secretary can do, if the National Chairman directs, the Deputy Secretary can do.
All right.
If we have problems with that, when we go for a convention, we change the law. But as it is today, this is the law.
Okay. We have a viewer has called in, Pat, I believe. Pat in Port Harcourt. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. We've been seeing this man and the other party people on your sister TV station. My question is, I'm not even saying they should not expel other people that they expel, because, Uncle Yori, let's tell ourselves the truth. They expel Wike and others because they are supporting other parties. Fine, no problem. But that Olabode just was just, supporting the other people. And if you notice all these people, when they've been talking, even Amechi, Erufai, they'll be telling you, even in their ADC, if they don't have anybody that will contest, whoever that will contest from any other party, they will support as long as they remove Tinubu. They are all parties and they should suspend all of them. Not only just Wike them. Even Bode Balatu was among the G5 before. Should be suspended if they really want to do this thing well. So it's not only because this one, all of them, they are beaten about the bush. So they know what they are doing.
Okay.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for calling in, Pat. Well, first of all, before we go any further,
can I respond to that?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay,
go ahead.
I appreciate that call. Yeah, I appreciate that call and the concern of the caller. But you do know that before you act against people to determine their membership, you must give them the right to fair hearing. And if you're aware, you would know that a committee was set up a disciplinary committee was set up to look into those issues. Some people went to that committee, explained their circumstances and apologized and have turned a new leaf. Others have doubled down. Others have even threatened the party and doubled down on the things to which, from your very eye, you could see that is against the interests of the party. And so that is why the big stick was wielded against them. But you have seen others come to say, well, I was angry at that time. Look at the things you guys did. These are the things I didn't understand. And so I acted in that way. And so, because we are human, we're an opposition party that has come through a lot. And you know how the last convention went through, the elective convention went through, and the processes that came out from there. So some of those things, in the eye of the committee and the eye of convention, could have been excusable if the people have turned over a new leaf and have now started working in tandem with what the Constitution says. The problem is not falling. The problem is remaining down. The problem is not doing a thing. For example, even while here, in the process of answering a question, I may put the interest of the party in jeopardy, innocently. And remember that it is the intent that would determine whether I did it consciously to bring the party down. And I go back and they say, oh, you said this, and this isn't correct, and this is putting the party in bad light. And I say, oh, I'm sorry, I did it innocently because that is what I knew at that time. I apologize, I'll take steps to correct it.
Mm-hmm.
And the party, in its magnanimity, may now say, okay, not a problem, would watch you going forward. But if you look at the people who have been suspended, they have in public deprecated the party and work clearly against, not just working in the past, they have informed us, given us notice that they work against us in the future. And so if we have to have a viral democracy that thrives on opposition, where the opposition must do its work of providing an alternative view to what government is doing, then you cannot say that those are opposition leaders. So the question is, why stay here to support government? If we agree, and for me, if it is the position of the PDP that, look, for any reason, we don't want to sponsor a presidential candidate against the president, assuming but not considered, it should be a decision of convention. It shouldn't be a decision of one person or a few people. The AD decided in 2003 not to sponsor a presidential candidate when President Obasanjo was a PDP candidate. I mean, it was a decision of the whole. It cannot be people working to sabotage the general disposition of the general. No, that wouldn't be good.
Okay. I have Benga in Abuja waiting to join the program. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning, Mr. Yori, and good morning to your guest there. What happened today in Abuja in Zone 5 at Data House is a shame and embarrassment to democracy in Nigeria. That a party that has been in government for 16 years will not manage crisis. Mr. Yori, a party do not, the difficult judgment about 3 months before they say, go and obey your own rules. Don't call us into what is happening within you. Go and obey your own constitution. You are going for a congress, a convention, elective convention, and 13 states do not have elected delegates. We have caretaker in those states. How is it? And so people now challenge you, go and do the right thing. You say they went to court. 2 courts gave judgment. Don't go with this.
Ini, I know, of course, you want to react to that, but I wanted, in case there's anybody who maybe just came in last night, I just wanted, we have a short, package of what yesterday was all about. Then, in commenting on this, submission by that viewer, you might also want to comment on the package. Let's take that package now.
The showdown intensified the moment Governors Makinde and Bala Mohammed arrived at Wadata Plaza, attempting to take control of the situation and assert authority over the ongoing crisis. But they were met with fierce resistance from the pro-Wike faction, whose loyalists had already taken positions both inside and around the Secretariat, insisting that the meeting could not proceed under what they described as a compromised leadership structure. Within minutes, the atmosphere shifted from tense to combustible. Shouting matches erupted, party members pushing, shoving, and then the unmistakable crack of tear gas canisters fired into the air, sending crowds scattering in panic. Police officers deployed to maintain order instead became the center of the chaos, firing multiple rounds of tear gas as the rival groups surged toward the gates, each trying to force passage into the Secretariat. Journalists covering the confrontation were not spared. Several reporters were hit by tear gas, with some collapsing on the pavement, while others clutched their equipment, battling to regain visibility and breath as officers struggled to disperse the swelling crowd. The scene was nothing short of political theater, complete with smoke, confrontation, and the battle for supremacy between PDPs and the party must reclaim structure and discipline. But the Wike faction stood its ground, refusing to back down and accusing the governors of hijacking the party for personal interests.
We are here to sit in to see what will happen. Our property, we have been tear gassed as governors. We have been molested in spite of our immunity in time and whatever that we have as leaders in our own right with our chairman. Well, it is for the nation to gauge the kind of democracy we have, the kind of leadership that we have. I will advise the presidency that it should not keep people who are no longer useful in terms of managing the political space, managing our diversity, creating unity and governance. We don't want to cause trouble to anybody. Yes, we are in the opposition. We should be allowed to survive.
Democracy is under threat. I'm calling on all other developed nations, all advanced democracies, come and save Nigeria, come and save democracy. Because I cannot understand how a serving minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be leading talks, armed talks, and then with the active connivance or support of the police to come and create mayhem here. I have said it, we are willing to lay down our lives to protect our office, to protect our democracy, to protect our mandate.
With no side yielding, the clash grew more heated and the physical confrontation impossible to contain. By midday, the Wadata Plaza resembled a conflict zone rather than the headquarters of a major political party, with shattered protocol, injured supporters, journalists in distress, and police lines struggling to hold their ground. And as the smoke finally began to clear, one thing became unmistakably evident. The PDP's internal war has reached a breaking point, and today's chaos may only be the beginning of a deeper battle for the soul of the opposition in Nigeria. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, Mr. Emenabong, that no doubt is what, you know, first of all, Mr. Gbenga, who called in from Abuja, and what the content of this report is all about. I mean, PDP as a party, and even at its national, you know, secretariat yesterday, did put on a spectacle. So what does this really mean for how seriously one can take the PDP in terms of, you know, what kind of electoral importance can we attach to the efforts of PDP now?
Okay, clearly, I appreciate the call from Mr. Gbenga, and I do know that, like I said, the parties involved know the truth. It is the court that is on trial. Usually that's what we say in law, because both parties, the claimants and defendants, do know what the truth is. So they are putting the judge on trial to see whether the judge can find the truth that they already know. I'm sure that Mr. Gbenga knows the intended beneficiary of the decimation of opposition parties. And I'm also sure that he agrees that if the owl cries in the night and the child dies in the morning, that there's a connection between them. And I'm sure that he knows how the war to decimate Labour Party, the Labour Party leadership started. I'm sure he knows. I'm also sure that he knows how the battle to stop the registration of ADA came. And he knows how the crisis in ADC happened. And so if you look at all of this, is it safe to say that these are mere coincidences? So that would answer. I mean, the truth is, every reasonable person who is not encumbered by subjectivity would know what the truth is. And I'm glad that you played that package. The answers to his questions are within that package. People were being accused in that package, on the ground, in the center of it. Governors were tear gas, people were tear gas for coming for their meeting. And now, so when you speak about obedience to court judgments, it baffles me why people call someone who went to your state, who could have gone to Akwa Ibom State, who could have gone to Edo State, to seek for the enforcement of his rights within his understanding and resources, forum shopping. But you don't refer to another case instituted, you know, after the judgment as forum shopping. We can't pick and choose. And I know that footballification is the highest form of subjectivity, and it comes out clear, because in footballification, if you belong to one club, when your striker dribbles a defender, you clap. But when it happens to your own person, you begin to shout. Distinguished former governor of Jigawa State. I'm sure that Gbenga and the rest of the people know that every electoral process has a guideline. And that guideline, the critical components of that guideline are the timelines in that guideline. Meaning that And this has been going on for a long time, meaning that there's a period for sales of forms. There's a period for screening. There's a period for return of forms. But again, about this Jigawa case, I have refrained from bringing a lot of things on the table so that we leave room for reconciliation, because we believe in the history, the democratic credentials of that former governor. He has a rich democratic credential, and we also think that maybe he's genuinely annoyed. And so if we're able to discuss, maybe some things will happen. But when you go back to the facts, you need to put it on something. There was a guideline. There were procedures. And these things were obvious. It was published. That's how I got forms. It was published. And when people talk about zoning, remember that zoning is ingrained in the constitution of PDP. From point one, it has always been about zoning. And so when people talk about, oh, it shouldn't be zoned, go back to history. The last NWC, how did it happen? The penultimate one, how did it happen? We zone, and when we zone, we sub-zone again, because when you now zone to the south, it now has to go to the south, south, southeast, and southwest. When you go to the southwest, the leaders there would also sit again and say, so how do we share this thing so that one place does not is not loaded and the other isn't? If not, if you allow a free-for-all contest, it means that the people who have resources and money and connection can just hijack. And at the end, our constitution says that we must ensure federal character in our election. How do you ensure that without discussing? So when people speak about against zoning and not, the people who are speaking about zoning and not zoning are people who have been beneficiaries. It's not the first time it is happening. So for example, how did the publicity secretaryship come to Akwa Ibom? They simply said, look, it's an envelope process. What was here should go to this other side. And when the things came, Akwa Ibom and Cross River, within the south-south, you have shared Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Rivers, Bayelsa, and Delta Edo. And so when it came, they said, okay, the last National Working Committee member was from Cross River, the woman leader the able woman leader who just left. And so it meant that he had to come to Akwa Ibom. So the stakeholders in Akwa Ibom now sat and said, who are those who have indicated interest? 3 or 4 people can come and they say, look, can we talk? And if people talk and they agree, yes, those positions were contested. Positions were contested. Someone bought form for the national chairman, but at that point said, oh, I decline. I no longer want. Even after declining, still had votes. So what are we saying?
Okay.
Except we are just trying to play
I've been patient. I didn't want to interrupt you. I beg your pardon. I didn't want to interrupt you. I've been patient so that you could, get it all out. Because what I mean by that is that Mazi Okoroafo has been waiting for quite a while. Mazi, apologies. Please go ahead now.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, Nigeria. See, Sayori, there are 2 things I want us to look at. Power, that is what is lingering. My only advice to Wike, the Federal Capital Minister, let him just say bye-bye. Agreed that he was betrayed during PDP convention when they were calling for presidential candidate. All his lieutenants, subordinates betrayed him. Let him forget and forgive. That's the only solution. Now, the thing is this. Whether Wike expel or they expel Wike or Wike expel other people now does not make sense. Because one, when Turaki raised an alarm yesterday, which the whole world had, that President Trump of the United States of America should come and solve Nigerian democracy, it's very, very tiring. It's very, very disheartening for our country, Nigeria. People will see that as sovereignty. Now, by the time they will go and write their own report and send to America, people will start blaming what's let them settle their differences. Because bringing in foreign body to come and solve Nigerian political situation is very, very tiring. Because why is it that Nigerian politicians cannot say bye-bye to money and power? That is what is lingering between the two. Honestly speaking, please, don't take it the way it is. Agree that they betrayed you. But let's have that spirit of forgiveness. There is no sin anybody commits in this world that God does not forgive. Let him forgive them. That's the only solution, because the way they are doing that, it doesn't make sense. They have not turned it to turn to boys brigade situation, like area boys and anything that area boys to party. It doesn't make sense. Look at matured men, party men, look at the Chegas.
Okay, Mazi, thank you very much. Let's give Mr. Emenamong, sort of a bit of space to respond to that.
Okay, sure. Mazi cuts into the issue because he has heard several interviews and he knows the pain point. Again, like I said somewhere yesterday, that I will not, because of today, ignore the sufferings and contributions of some of these leaders yesterday. That belongs to history and posterity. But what they're also doing today would belong to history. And so for me, the issue is the room for negotiation is available, but negotiation must be on the basis of objectivity, not ultra-subjectivity, that if I don't take it, then it gets bad, because it would spoil the party, number one. Number two, we cannot be having discussions where some people have already swore and told the world that, look, we are going to support the president, whereas this constitution says that we will field candidates in all offices available for election. That already creates an almost irreconcilable difference, because if you're saying we're supporting the president and the president is not a member of our party, and we are saying that we're not going to support the president, we'll find our own presidential candidates, that becomes a point of conflict. And that is the reason for the entire crisis, to hold the soul of the party so that someone can support the president with the PDP. And others are saying, no, it is not the spirit and soul of our constitution. It is not good for democracy. It is not good for competitive democracy. It's not good for elections.
Okay. Well, Mr. Amenabong, I want to thank you very much that we've had a first look, and I'm sure that, there'll be many more. The newly elected national, publicity secretary of the PDP, Mr. Ini Amenabong. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all who joined.
All right, then. So, okay, we'll just take a quick break now. He's a consultant to the Senate President and also a political affairs analyst. Good morning, Ken. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. I actually thought I was going to be the first guest because I had a program today.
Okay, but you couldn't make it in time to be the first guest.
I'm wearing Agbada.
You couldn't make it in time to be the first guest.
In any television program before.
But you came.
That's fine.
Because your old party is the subject of discussion. So you now came in the festive gear.
No, I have a program. I've never been Agbada on national television. I find it very, very strange for when I'm Agbada, but that's fine. Maybe I'm celebrating ahead of time. That PDP has decided to take the back burner. So but going into what is really happening, Uncle Yori, because I know you are pressed for time. I listened to a bit of the interview you had with your guest, though. Yes. Did you want to go into that? Because what is your... No, I need to hear what you're asking me.
Well, you are coming from the PDP. I'm correct in saying that you have decamped to the APC right now, right?
Oh, but Uncle Yori, I left the PDP in 2022.
Oh.
Now, one of the reasons I left the PDP, you remember, you know how many times you have had me on your program, countless of times. I'm sure there was a time I was...
So it's not a new event?
Initially in 2015.
So it's not a new event is the point you are making? It's not in this gale of defections. That's not where you made your move. That's what you're saying? No. I didn't live in the gale of defection. I left in June 2022. So what do you now?
Because there were things I saw that I knew that we're going to come to this point that we have come to.
Okay. So it's like,
as a member of the Presidential Campaign Council for PDP, there are a lot of things that we did see and we could tell, and our leaders didn't listen to us. Because if you remember the last convention that produced Iyochayu, and Damaguna, his deputy. Interestingly, in that convention, I was in 3 committees. My governor then, Okowa, appointed me into the accreditation and protocol committee. I was also put in the media committee, and I was also put in the electoral committee. So I've never served in 3 committees like I did. And that was supposed to be when we were going to have a rebate for the PDP. And it was a great event. Everybody was quite united. The governors were still together. This National Working Committee that is just about to leave on the 8th of December was when they were betted. But by the time the presidential election came, the primaries was what tore the party apart. A whole lot of us thought that it was unfair not to go to the South. And they thought we were not being wise. When internal democracy is not, promoted by a party, this is a result of what you get. Because if you look at it, what happened yesterday was the climax of what was meant to happen. There were only 2 governors who were on ground yesterday, meaning that only 2 governors are supporting the PDP as it is now. Because whoever is a governor and is in PDP and was not in the Secretariat yesterday would not be counted as one who is supporting the party. And if you look at it objectively, having been a member of the party, I think Anyanwu got it wrong. If he was contesting his expulsion because of the court order which had been procured, there were ways he could have gone about it, because by the time you call a meeting of the NEC and you are yet to expel Makinde and you are yet to expel Bala, you must give them access to the Secretariat, which was why they had access yesterday, whether by push or by force or by hook. They had to get access because they were sitting governors who are automatic members of the NEC. So in strategy, he had gotten it wrong there. And again, you call a meeting of the BOT, you said you have suspended certain members of the BOT. There are certain members you did not suspend who also have to get access and are not with you. So it was actually a show of shame yesterday, but it could have been avoided because they could have waited for a court of superior authority to have taken the multiple of cases, the plethora of cases that was already before a court of first instance with coordinate jurisdiction. Then we would have been sure where they were, but it was in a hurry to ensure that the Secretariat was sealed today, that the show of force was done. It's a pity. It used to be my party. I spoke for that party. I served as a commissioner under that party. I don't want to disparage them, but I already saw this coming. I knew it was going to be a house of commotion when I left in 2022, which is about 3 years ago.
So now that it has become what, your words, let me just borrow them, a party of commotion, because you look at what happened yesterday. Actually, Wike, the Federal Capital Territory Minister, he was amidst all of that. I think he had fixed his car in such a way that the tear gas fumes would not be penetrating into his cocoon. We hear that he actually was there. There are those who are saying that, look, the way these gentlemen and ladies, I didn't notice, yes, I think I saw one lady, there might have been more. The way people are conducting themselves in the PDP, can you really think of them as a party in power? Is this what we are going to be signing up for, this methodology?
Well, the fact remains that you must have an opposition. Without an opposition, you cannot put the government on its toes. Yes. And so anybody that is wishing that we don't have opposition do not want us to practice democracy. But you should have an opposition that is coordinated. The PDP is completely not coordinated at this material point in time.
At nobody's fault but their own.
Position.
Sorry, sir. At nobody's fault than their own. So this matter, as Benga, who called in earlier, was now saying, you can't bring the president or whoever you want to name into this matter. It's what they call in tennis.
No, but error. I find it very funny when they keep bringing in the president. The president has nothing to do with this. If the president has appointed Nyesom Wike as his minister, does it mean that he will have to tell him what to do in terms of his party? I'm sitting here, right? You remember when it was the Rivers crisis, in my analysis, I always supported the strategy that was used by the minister. But I think his strategy yesterday was not the best of strategies. And that was why you saw that the governors eventually, with the factional chairman, gained access and eventually gained access to the office. They must go back to the drawing table. They've always used the courts and they've always abided by the courts. If INEC did not witness the convention in Ibadan, there was no point for the show of shame yesterday. They would have gone back to the appeal courts, knowing that there's still time between now and when INEC would tell us that it is time to start politicking, it is time for primaries, it is time for people to be weary if the chairman and the national secretary will sign their form. Then judgments would have been at least gotten from a court of higher instance. But yesterday's show of shame was quite unnecessary because one was a judgment. One was the one that was gotten by Sule Lamido for saying he was disenfranchised. And one was the other one in Ibadan that was gotten in terms of an ex parte order. These are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. But if you want to put an opposition together, you put your acts together. When the APC defeated us in 2015, if you remember very well, Onkiori, I was a member of the Presidential Campaign Council. They put their acts together. There was no disunity in the opposition like this. They were speaking with one voice. They decided to bury their ambition. But you look at ADC, you look at Labour, you look at PDP, ADC seems to be the most organized as it is now.
You know, amongst the guys in opposition.
Yes, if you look at it objectively, they seem to be the one, even though, well, there are fights on the political leadership of the ADC, but they've been recognized by INEC and they've gone ahead to inaugurate their headquarters, they're inaugurating their structures. But I don't see these people being able to defeat Bala Mohammed Tinubu in an election, except they come together and present a formidable force. And you know, most of the things that they present as the reason why they need to remove the government in power, apart from security, which has, I must accept, has been a challenge for this government. The economy is doing quite well. There's light at the end of the tunnel. When initially it looked like it was on the free fall, that has taken the back burner. We see positive
sorry,
signs
Ken. Sorry to interrupt.
In a whole lot of
sorry
areas.
to interrupt you, Ken. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. I think we have a person calling out of Gombe. Who's in?
Okay.
Kenneth. Okay.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Your guest there.
Yes.
Sincerely speaking,
Sir Ken Okolobo.
You are a wonderful presenter. I want to sincerely appreciate you. You have been so dogged. I've been watching you severally. Yes, going straight to the point. See, the fact remains that PDP is in disarray, scattered. And this started because of what happened when the vice president scuttled that plan that would have brought Wike to the limelight. And that has been the microcosm, the problem. That has been the microcosm that has eaten into PDP. PDP is dead. Far right, it is dead. But my anger now, why I decide to call, is that the so-called chairman, is it Turaki or how do they call him, calling on America to come and attack a sovereign state? And that man was in the four corner of a court. Is it proper? And he's also saying that we Nigerians, we are going to lay our life for him after they have stolen all the monies in this country and they have done injustice to Nigeria. I will not support that. Oh. Please, Nigeria, don't join the bandwagon to do what they are doing there. What they are doing is uncalled for. What they are doing is not right. Okay. Even a government saying he has immunity. What kind of immunity? When they are not doing the right thing. When they are the one that have scuttled damaged PDP. I listened to him tentatively when he was analyzing. I'm not happy. I am a headphone from Gombe. I'm not happy with what is happening. It now shows that they don't have character. But my happiness is that Tinubu will go back. I'm a PDP, but I cannot vote those kind of people into their miscreants. I cannot vote them.
Oh dear.
I would rather vote for APC. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir, for calling in. Again, okay, you might, of course, want to comment on other things, but he brought up that controversial statement inviting the U.S. President Trump to please come on here and come and rescue us. You must have been taken aback at that.
First of all, let me sympathize with the families of the 23 girls that have been abducted in Kebbi. My heart goes to the families. I know what it feels. I'm a father, and I know how painful it is at this material point in time and what they are going through. What I thought Turaki was going to do, the senior advocate of Nigeria, who is incidentally from Kebbi State, was to first of all call off whatever meeting that they were supposed to have at the Wadata Plaza yesterday. You have been elected the chairman. Go to court and defend your mandate. You are a senior advocate of Nigeria. Nobody can teach you the rudimentaries of law. This is what you have read in school and you have risen to such a position. That is what I thought he was going to do. In the light of the girls that had been abducted, and especially me, one from Kebbi State. But actually going for that event yesterday and calling on President Trump was like playing to the gallery. I thought that was quite a disservice to the country. Especially for you who wants to become the chairman of an opposition party that wants to take over government tomorrow. Let me of the moment and probably in anger. And I think after now, he should apologize for that call. And having said that, I look at this whole thing as a case of where it is destined that the opposition for the first time is going to remain in disarray because they don't want to subsume their ambition. If you don't want to subsume your ambition, there's no way you can take over power. Rotimi Amechi wants to be president. Atiku wants to be president. Peter Obi wants to be president. You all not be president at the same time. People are calling on our former leader of my former party, Goodluck Jonathan, to come and run. If these 4 people are running, then Bola Tinubu does not even need to campaign. He just needs to wait on the day of election because the votes will be scattered. And so the fact remains that if you don't put your acts together, do not blame Bola Tinubu for the woes of the opposition. They are the ones not putting their acts together because they refuse to subsume their ambition. And that's the absolute truth. They know the game that they are playing. They're playing it for the different presidential candidates that they represent. You understand? I don't want to call names here, but I have been in the system. I have worked very closely with the system, especially in the PDP. And so I can see what is playing out.
You don't want to call names. You see, it's always the interesting part you like to leave out. Instead of calling those names, let us know that, okay, Ken came here. So we heard it, but I understand. I understand, Ken. And indeed, let me thank you for giving us a bit of your time. So sorry that your Agbada has been wasted a bit because you say you wouldn't ordinarily have worn an Agbada.
Yes, but I will still make the occasion.
Thank you very much, Ken Okolugo.
Thank you for having me, Uncle Yori. It's always a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Political affairs analyst and consultant to the Senate President on communication. Okay, we're going to have to leave it there.